Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on elevating your event website. My name is Julie Haddix, and I'm our Senior Director of Solution and Customer Marketing here at Cvent. Very happy to have you all with me to join our subject matter experts, Dara and Andres, as we talk about building your event website for 2025. Before I welcome them into the conversation, let me go through some quick housekeeping details. First, you will notice the engagement panel on the right-hand side. There are a number of things there for you, including chat, Q&A, survey. You want to use those buttons and those areas to engage with us virtually during this conversation, ask us questions, and of course, give us feedback. There's also some resources available for you to help have some extra information about this topic and take with you after the conversation. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. Dara and Andres, welcome to today's conversation. If I could just ask you both to introduce yourselves real quick. Dara, I'll turn it over to you first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dara. I'm the event marketer behind Cvent CONNECT. I'm responsible for all the pre-event promotion for Cvent CONNECT and also the registration experience and our attendee experience. So basically from the beginning of the event to the end, I'm working on all the communications in between.
Wonderful. And Andres, why don't you let everybody know why you're here with us today?
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Andres. I am the Senior Web User Experience Designer for all things Cvent, Cvent.com, anything on Cvent Community, and of course, our favorite Cvent CONNECT. Anything that you land on for a web page, I am typically the one that's taking a look at it, designing it, and delivering that experience to all of our prospects and customers.
Wonderful. So I'm so excited for this conversation today. I think we're going to really pull out some of the key codes that you need to crack on designing your event website in 2025. And one of the really unique parts of this conversation is we want to showcase the relationship between Dara, our event marketing team, and Andres, our web UX design team, and how that partnership really comes together to create the perfect event website. So to get us started, Dara and Andres, can you talk a little bit about how you guys even started working together? What started this great relationship on the Cvent CONNECT website?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work together quite closely on the Cvent CONNECT website, mostly because with web design, content and design go hand in hand together. So I feel like every time I'm writing content, I'm always bringing in Andreas to make sure that it's going to work from a web design perspective. But we started working together on the 2021 website. So it's been almost 3 years of working together. And each year I feel like we get a little bit better. But we work hand in hand to put together the design, come up with the content strategy. I do most of the writing, and then Andreas does a lot of the user experience and design.
Yep, it's been quite a couple of years now, and I feel like there's always improvements to be made, and we get better and better each year. I always remember that first year that we started working together and kind of like how we've evolved throughout the progress, and I think that is super great. And one of the things that I think is super important when creating a website is to iterate, but also looking at that content specifically. So when Dara's working on that content and then sends it over to me, I put it on the website and I take a look at how that is displaying to our end users. And typically it goes through this iteration process of going back and forth and back and forth. So there's definitely a moment of communication that needs to happen between Dara and myself.
Wonderful. And for our audience, I didn't explain my role in the Cvent CONNECT website. And one of the reasons I was so excited to moderate this conversation with Dara and Andres is I am manage the team on the flip side that works with Dara on what is that content that we want to display to our audiences and who are the audiences that we're really trying to attract to Cvent CONNECT. So my solutions and vertical marketing team is the team responsible for our marketing strategy holistically for our key vertical audiences, which is a key piece of the Cvent CONNECT messaging framework, as well as our marketer persona and how we're trying to attract these new audiences. So even though some of you may have joined some of my webinars before, see me up here talking with a bunch of our SMEs, this conversation is especially near and dear to my heart because I do work with Dara and Andres so much daily on everything Cvent Connect. Let's talk about how the Cvent Connect website has evolved in the last few years since you guys started working together.
Absolutely. So I'll start this one off. We really look at a couple of key priorities every year. It's just not possible to make all of the changes that we want to make. We get tons of great feedback, both from our attendees, our marketing stakeholders, and then also from our internal teams on what we can do better each year. And a lot of these are things that sometimes take a lot of time or heavy lifting. So what we like to do is each year focus on a few key priorities and make that the big change for the year. And the nice thing is that we can stack these over time. So we start with, maybe we're starting with removing jargon and simplifying, and then we have that content fixed and we can update it in 2022 rather than starting from scratch every year. One of the biggest changes that we made to our web design was our video header. And this is something that took months and months of code and iteration to make it exactly how we wanted it. But now that we have that implemented, we can just reuse it every year. So it's really great to just find one or two key priorities that you can focus on for the year. And then you can just take those learnings and iterations and apply it to the next year. And you're going to keep getting better and better to make your final beautiful website.
Love that, Dara. So, Andres, did you have anything to add about the evolution over time and how you worked with us?
Yes, for sure. So the best way to evolve your site over time is to iterate. One thing that I definitely want to put out there is that your first version should never be your final version. A big tip I like to give everyone is to just like take a break sometimes. There'll be times where I'll sit down to work on something and I'll be trying to solve a design problem. I'm trying to find a solution for it. And then I'll take a break. I'll step away. I'll come back to it. And then the solution just like clicks in my head. And I'll be like, dang, why didn't I think of that? That's often because you get fatigued. And as you're doing that, the more times you iterate, the more you get to a better version of your website. And if you're lucky enough to have an event, kind of like Connect, where it happens yearly, as these events happen, you get to collect feedback from your customers and your attendees, and you start implementing those changes into your site year over year. Definitely another thing to think about is when you're building, for example, this year's website, think one step ahead. Think about how next year's website's going to look. So when we were building 2023, I was thinking about 2024. When we were building 2024, we were thinking about 2025 and so on and so forth. Things only get better throughout time. And the more you work on something, the better it'll get. So definitely in terms of evolving your website, make sure you're always iterating and incorporating feedback from your attendees and customers.
I love that. Andrea, so you're already thinking about next year's 2025 website?
Of course we are.
We're even in 2026 now, Julie. We're already thinking about 2026. So
of course you are. Of course you are. Well, that would be because we've got some great announcements that everybody should stay tuned on Cvent Connect for. Now, one question, and we didn't have this in our script, so I'm going to throw a curveball at you guys. But I think an unspoken question that for everybody here is, what is the platform that we're building the website on?
Andreas.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this one. We built on event registration specifically in Web Designer. After working on it for so long at this point, it's been 3-4 years. The one thing that I will definitely say is that when you step out of the boundaries of what's right in front of you, you can achieve so much with it. One of the things that I thought about as I was building 2025 this year's was, how do I tell what the platform wants to do versus the platform telling me what it can do? So definitely make sure that you are thinking about web design outside of what's in front of you, and think about what do you want your website to be, and then how do I make the platform do that?
So for any non-Cvent customers, event registration, what Andres referred to, is the Cvent event management platform. So we are building our event website right within our event management program. It's not a separate website, which is really awesome. And, I think that that's also one of our unspoken goals with the site, is always to do exactly what you just said, Andreas, and that is showcase the boundaries that you can take the site to, and that, while, We provide you with the technology framework for what a great event website needs to have, with the correct partnership between amazing event marketing brains and UX brains. You can really bring that to life right within the Cvent event management product.
Yeah, and it being such a showcase, it's definitely the pressure's on to make a really awesome Reg website, because we're like, we got to make Cvent look great and make all of our stakeholders happy too. So we put a lot of time and effort in making things look good, not just for Cvent Connect, but to give inspiration and ideas to others that might be using the Cvent platform too.
Well, Dara, I think that's a perfect transition to get us back on track, which is, all right, so where do you start each year when you get started? What are those things that you're thinking about to put together that perfect event website with all of the stakeholders and the pressure of showcasing our event, the technology that comes along with it?
Yeah, like Andrea said, this is a yearly event, so it's nice in that some elements of it are repeating, but every year we shift a little bit and the business shifts a little bit. So I always like to go back to our key stakeholders and ask them what the business objectives for the year are. And this may sound like it's very far away from your website strategy, but it's really important to understand where as a business you want to go, because that will really be the defining force behind your website. So for example, Cvent as a whole really wanted to focus more on the marketer this year, and the prospect became a more important audience for us. So we had to make sure that our website is really speaking to those audiences.
Yeah. And I always start with user journeys. I need to know why the user is here, what are they trying to accomplish, and how do I set up the website in order to make achieving their goal as easy as possible. Specifically with this year's 2025, there are so many different audience segments that we are truly taking a look at how do we lay out content in a way that is easiest to read so that they can make their decision and register as fast as possible.
Yeah. And then I think, Dara, you have some amazing message brief templates that we are going to make available. Is there anything in these templates that you want to purposely walk through the audience, our webinar audience, to understand how we understand our event audience?
Definitely. So one of the things that I like to do each year is when we align on those business objectives is to write it down and document it. So this is going to be a really great resource for you as an event marketer. You want to make sure that you're documenting who your target audience is for this year, and then also what are the key value propositions and programming that will interest them at your event. So get down to the basics. Why are we hosting this event and who is it for? Write this all down in your marketing brief. And this is something that you can refer to throughout the entire course of your event. And it's going to be really helpful for you to be able to refer back to, or even to refer your own stakeholders back to sometimes, to say, hey, these are the priorities that we identified at the beginning of the year and what we think is most important. And this is why we made the decisions that we did. One of the other things that I like to add to this messaging brief, so that it's not just the content of what that audience is looking for, I also like to include year-over-year data and any behavioral data that we may have on the audience. So for example, if we're trying to grow a certain persona, so if we're interested in marketers this year, let's look back at our registration data from last year, look at how many marketers registered and attended, and what their behavior was like on site. So this will be really helpful for you to have growth metrics that you can use, but also will help you balance out the content. So maybe if marketers are only 5% of your audience, they don't need to have the entire website dedicated to them, but they could have their own page that's specific to them. So it'll help balance out your content strategy and also provide you with some metrics that you can give back to your stakeholders to help make important decisions on the website.
This is great, Dara, and I'm sure a lot of people really, really appreciate that. The other resource I think you have available, and you've referred quite a few times, is all of the different stakeholders. So can you walk us through your stakeholder cheat sheet?
Yes. So another really important data point that you can use to help guide your website decisions is feedback. I'm sure all of us get feedback, whether solicited or unsolicited. I like to bucket it into 3 groups, and all these 3 groups have different needs. So the first one is your advising group. So that would be the folks like Julie, who are the executive stakeholders on our Connect event. There's different ways that you want to capture their feedback versus who is actually executing the event or your attendees. The next bucket that I have is the executing group. So that's the folks like Andreas. It's very important to get these folks' opinions too, because they are subject matter experts within their own craft. So I always make sure that I get not just the executive stakeholder opinions, but also the opinions of those that are actually executing and doing the work, to make sure that all of those are balanced in the final product. And then the last bucket is attendees. And I would say that this is maybe our most important bucket, definitely our most important bucket. This is the people that attended your event, whether in person or virtually. You can get their feedback through things like surveys or just anecdotal feedback through your sales team. But all of these different buckets of feedback are so important. There's definitely different ways that we're going to want to balance these, and I'll go into that more as we go on. But you want to make sure that you're collecting, storing, analyzing all this feedback so you can use that as insights into your website in future years.
Wonderful. So hopefully those resources are really helpful. I believe this is available. Now we've figured out the messaging, we've communicated the plan with key internal stakeholders. How do we get this going? Let's shift now from strategy to let's begin planning. And I think the first place you guys always start is your timeline.
Yes. So we used to have the mindset of once we put our website up, it is final. And I've realized that that is a foolish task. The website will never be final, and that is okay. A website is something that should be iterated on and changed, not just year over year, but throughout the year, because there's different phases to your promotion cycle, and there's also different phases for how you build the site. So instead of thinking of the mindset of, okay, I'm going to get to a certain point and my website is going to be done, we use the phase process, which is also called the agile philosophy, for our website. So this is what Andres was talking about when he said we're going to be iterating time over time and not necessarily creating one final product. So what we like to do for Cvent Connect is we have a couple of different review checkpoints before the website goes out. So you can see we send out our save the date. We have our product and planning team review the website. We have our UX team review the website. And then we have our executives review the website. And then we'll have our website about 80% of the way done. We spend that last week before our registration launches, finalizing everything. And then we'll do what we call a soft launch. And what I love about the soft launch is that you're getting your website off the ground. You're finally getting everything up and ready, but you're not getting it out to your full audience. So what we like to do is send out to our pre-registrants early, and also send the link to our sales team. And what this will allow us to do is have the pre-reg audience and our sales team go in and start testing things before our actual big promotion launch announcement. So it's just a little bit of buffer time that lets you have the website up and running, but not necessarily complete, so that you can get those bugs and any little minor typos or things that you may have missed over your past couple of weeks of iteration. Then you're finally at the launch process. So this is always our biggest and splashiest announcement. And I want to say that it's our email with our highest open rate. So this is where the stakes are on. You want everything to be perfect. And that's where the soft launch and all of these iterations and reviews are so helpful, because you know when you're going into this phase one that you have something that it may not be perfect, but it is as close to perfect as it can possibly be. And then from there, we will iterate into different phases. I like to organize these around some of our agenda milestones. So our agenda going live, our keynote speaker being announced, we'll update the website throughout all of these phases and make things look a little bit different to highlight different announcements that we might have. Now, the genius of the phase process is that it allows you to plan out changes to your website. So maybe when your website went live, you got emailed all of these different changes or all this feedback from some of your stakeholders, or people wanted to add additional pages. There's always things that people may want to add or change once your website goes live. And the nice thing about the phases is you can say, okay, great, love that feedback, let's incorporate it into phase two. And once you start implementing this phase process, your stakeholders will come to expect that changes may not be a urgent or immediate thing. Some of the things they can be roadmapped for later on. And so it kind of alleviates some of that urgency and the rush to get changes made right away, because they know that you have a roadmap going forward where you'll be making iterations to the website over time. And I think that is about all that I have on the timelines. Andres, anything you want to add there?
I don't have anything for that one.
Okay. Andres, are you just along for the ride when Dara's setting those timelines to tell them?
Oh, yes, I definitely am. She's the one that told me, hey, we need to get this done for this specific date, and I am there to do it.
but she is wonderful. And I think this is, such a piece of our event marketing and our website strategy is, that stakeholder communication. This web timeline really aligns to that stakeholder plan and really make sure that everybody understands when they have content due, when they have a review deadline. And it's really, over the last 3 years, made our website launch process so much more streamlined. Everybody feels like they have a part in it. None of this, like, will you launch the website without me reviewing? That soft launch phase really gives everybody that last chance to say, site is live, please review it if you care about it. And, they were communicated with leading up to it as well. So this is a really great process, Dara. I'm hoping some people can use these templates of your past 3 slides to help in setting their strategy. All right, timeline's ready, we're launching. But before we get into that, what is all the work that you guys have actually done? What are some of the key things that the site needs to have, those key strategic pieces elements you're looking for in the website?
Absolutely. So these are the event basics. When we get the website off of the ground, these are the couple of things that you want to keep in mind as the most important items that you need to have. One thing that I like to think about is, what are the most important items I need to capture from my registrant? So this is the bare minimum of things that you would need to make your reg process as smooth as possible. So you're going to need contact information, dietary preferences if you're doing an in-person event. Maybe you want to capture their product interests. Then you need to make sure that you're including what information is most critical for your attendees to register. I don't think anyone would register for an event without a price or without an agenda at a glance. So you want to make sure you have those. We always like to include a convince your boss letter too, because that's just very helpful for people to advocate for their needs. And then what are the tech critical items that will affect the reg launch? So these are things that are more behind the scenes, but you can't launch your website without this. So you need to know when your cancellation deadline is, for example. What's your pricing? Do you have terms and conditions locked in? Once we have all of that information, then we can finally move to the soft launch phase.
Wonderful. So love these kind of quick hit checklists. Andres, now we've got everything, packaged it. Talk to us about the execution of turning this in, all of this great content that we've captured. We've got the pages we need, but now we have to put it on a web page. Talk us through that process that you go through.
There are 3 must-haves when it comes to your event registration website. The first one is to have clear and concise messaging. It is very easy to overlook this because as you're writing, you're getting excited. But it is very, very important to make sure that you're cutting out any of the fluff. If you've talked to Dara and I before, or you've heard us talk before, we will always, always, always iterate the fact that it is so important to make sure that you are stating your point as quick as possible. One of the things that I've started to notice, and I am victim to it myself, is that with use of AI, we are trying to become more efficient with the daily things that we do. And when I go onto any website, I will highlight a chunk of text. I'll go into ChatGPT and I'll ask it to summarize for me. So if a user is doing that, then why not cut that extra step out for them? Just summarize it yourself so that they don't have to. Be super, super clear and concise with your messaging. The second one is your why. You're trying to build trust. Trust is so important when it comes to getting somebody to register for your event. This year, one of the biggest things that we're doing in trust is to show a lot more visuals as to what's going on in the event. And so when you're building this trust with your customers and you're trying to get them there, that why is super, super critical. And then your last one is going to be your how. They've already decided that, hey, this is a great event that I want to go to. I want to register for this. How do I register for this? It sounds so simple, but it's so important to make sure that you have a register now button everywhere. If it's in your header, all of your headers should have it. And then also in your footer, all of your footers should have it. And make sure that your call to action is clear. So register now means that they're going to register. Do not take them to another page convincing them to register. You've already created that trust. They already decided that they want to register. Now takes you to that next step in the process.
I love those big things. I especially love the fewer words. I know you guys hold my team to that all the time. We are always a little bit verbose. So keeping your content teams short and sweet, helping edit, teamwork is so essential in this and helping to drive that registration. And I love that always have that clear CTA. Now, you have 4 key UX principles that you say are crucial to a site. So can you walk everybody through those UX principles and what that means? And for those who may not know, UX being user design, user experience, UX, user experience principles on an event website. Can you walk us through these?
Yes. So 4 super, super important ones. Do not miss out on any of these. The first one is going to be attention. How is your user reading? Totally forgot to switch this over. How is your user reading? You want to follow the user's eyes. This is super important because you don't want your content to be mixed around and in different places. We always start from top left to top right, next row from left to right. We call this an F pattern. That is just the natural way that your eyes go. So definitely make sure that you're prioritizing your content and putting the most important thing towards the top. One thing that I want to mention here is that when it's the first thing that your users are reading, it's the one thing that needs to grab their attention so that they continue reading. So you want to make sure that, again, you're grabbing that attention on the first one and you don't put that critical information towards the bottom. The next principle that we have is typography. Typography, again, super, super important. This is how easy it is to read your web page. You want to make sure that you keep your fonts consistent. And so what I like to do is to create a guideline for all the fonts that you use and all the font sizes that you use. So on the left, you're going to see here how we have a header 1, a header 2, a header 3, and then your paragraph. When you're setting up your website, you're going to be using these in a hierarchy, which is what you see on the right. You're going to see that your H2, which in this scenario, it's not an H1 because it is not the headlining of or the header of the actual page, but a section down below on the page. So we'll start with the header 2 that tells you what the section is going to be talking about. And then for another header, you're going to go a step down for a header 3. And then even one more, you're going to go into your paragraph text. Definitely only use up to 2 fonts. If you can, try and do only 1 font. We only truly use 2 fonts when your header font is more stylistic and it isn't used for reading large paragraphs of text. So in that case, if you need to, use the 2. But if you have a font that works for both the heading and the body, just stick to the 1. A third one I have is accessibility. I hope you've heard it before, and I hope you never stop hearing it. Accessibility is so, so, so important, not just for people that have disabilities, but for everyone. Accessibility will help all users navigate your site better. Here are 2 different things that you can do that will just make your website so much more usable and better for everybody. The first one is to add image alt text. On the left, you're going to see this is straight from Web Designer, our event registration platform. When you upload a photo, you're going to get a little box that says image alt text. In this box, you want to type in what is happening in the picture. There's 2 reasons you want to do this. For someone who's using a screen reader because they can't see what's on the screen, this is going to describe to them exactly what the screen is seeing and what the picture is. But even for those of us who have vision and can see everything just fine, there are times where your browser, maybe because of slow internet speeds or maybe just because of an error, can't pull in that image. It'll still pull in the alt text. So in that scenario where the browser couldn't pull in the image and they can't see it, they can still read what that image is and still making that image valuable for the user. Second one is for meeting color contrast. This, again, super important for those who have color blindness and low vision, but also helps your website look good. If you have low contrast, then some elements are going to be super hard to read and it could create inconsistencies throughout your website. And we try and meet the AA standard, which the level of contrast should be 4.5 for text and 3 for headlines. A super easy way to check this is to just Google search accessibility color checker. I like to use one called color.review. And it's a super easy tool that you'll type in your hex codes, what colors you're using, and it'll just tell you, hey, this meets accessibility, or hey, this doesn't meet accessibility. And then I added a third one on here because recently I've been navigating more this way, but users might not have the motion to use a mouse, in which they'll only use a keyboard. So your website has to be accessible in a way that they can tap through the website. So when you click tap on your keyboard, it'll go through every single different option, whether it's your dropdown, whether it's your links, whether it's going down on a page. And so again, this is super important for someone using your website. And in some cases, it can be faster to navigate your website as well. And then the last one is user centricity. Again, you don't want to lose sight of what is your user there for? What does that user journey look like? You want to meet their needs without making them think as fast as possible. That's a big one, is do not make your users think. Your users prefer your site work the same way as all of the other websites that they're using. So if they're expecting the register now button to be at the top, put the register now button up there for them. Don't make them look for it. Don't make them find it. Super important so that it doesn't create that point of frustration of where is this? And if they're stuck there for too long, then they're just going to leave your website. And there are instances too where because you change the way that they think, or because you're making them think, even if it's a better experience, then it doesn't matter. You made them think they're not going to want to do that anymore. Us as the designer overthink so that the user doesn't have to.
These are great. I loved your reminder that some people tab through a website and don't use a mouse. I am so dedicated to my mouse, my scrolling button, that's something I probably would not have thought of. Love that. Because then I realized, oh wait, my husband is a no mouse computer user. So so I love that call out. There were so many good nuggets in there that I hope everybody grabbed a few that are really valuable. But nothing, especially in marketing, would be complete without success metrics. So we've got a website, people are registering. Of course, registration is part of getting those success metrics of a website, like you said, Andres, getting people to do the thing you want them to do. But how do you guys measure your success here? What are those key success metrics you're looking at?
Yeah, so there's a few. Some of them are obvious. So one of them being your registrations total. And one of the things that you can calculate, and we calculate this year over year to see how our website is improved, is what's called registration rate. So this means of the visitors that have landed on your page, how many have then gone and registered. So having a higher registration rate means that people are doing exactly what Andreas just said. They're finding the registration process. They're going through it quickly. They're going to the website knowing what they want, and they're able to register as seamlessly as possible. So this year we had, from 2024, we had a 17.1 registration rate, which was a 200% increase year over year. So really excited about that metric. We also saw 23% of our visits come from direct. So the reason why I wanted to call this out is because this is exactly what Andreas was talking about too, with the user coming to your site and knowing what they want to do. So many times there will be multiple promotional touch points before someone even lands on your website. So they might have just typed in Cvent Connect and gone straight to your website, and they need to be able to find the information as quickly as possible. So about 23% of our website has likely already heard of Cvent Connect and has gone directly to the website to visit it and likely want to register immediately when they land there. And then finally, like I said, this is probably the most obvious metric to measure, but is your just total registration numbers. So we love to see that grow year over year. Last year, we had about 11,000 total registrations, which was awesome. It was up from 2023, so really good there. I've also included some other metrics on the bottom that you can use to measure your website. You can measure total visits, unique visits, visit by channel, registrations by channel, and then the registration rate, like I said. And then one last one that's really cool is monitoring your SEO monthly search volume. So what this does is it looks at your website compared to previous years and seeing how many people are searching for your website. So this is a good one to just measure overall, are people learning about my website earlier than they did last year, or at what times are they learning about my website? So just another interesting thing that you can track to figure out the effectiveness of your promotions and how effective your UX is.
Love these, Dara. This is some really great examples of metrics. I'm sure many of you also have other metrics. If there are other metrics you use, feel free to drop those in the chat. You definitely want to share out ideas with everybody here today. So we're almost towards the end of our time together. What are some of the key takeaways? There have been so much great information you guys shared. What are the 4 key takeaways you want our webinar attendees today to leave with as they prepare their websites for 2025?
Yeah, on my end, I would say definitely make sure you have a website strategy going in. Make sure you're planning your content carefully from the start. So think about what your business objectives are, your goals. Keep that messaging brief in your back pocket at all times to make sure that your content is always aligning with it. Make sure you're using a phased launch and update process, because that's really going to help you manage your stakeholders' expectations and then also break up your updates into iterative parts. It's going to save you time and effort. And as the slide said, it will keep you sane. Andres, you want to share a couple of the UX takeaways?
Yeah, so out of everything we talked about here, if there's one thing I can make a point on, is that for folks that aren't UX experts, you don't need to be. One of the biggest things that go into being a good designer is making things simple, right? So it's very easy to get excited. It's very easy to type everything up. It's very easy to put on your website. And as you know, from one point of view, you might think that, oh, this is good. I'm providing them with so much value and so much information. When in reality, you might just be overboarding them and they might be getting overwhelmed at the amount of things on your website. So just keep it simple. Again, we think so that users don't have to. And then 2 is that iteration is important. Just keep iterating, keep moving along, keep trying new things. Get feedback along the way, listen to what your attendees want, to what your customers want, and find good ways of implementing those. The first version of something should never be the live version of something. So yeah, just keep those two key points in mind. Keep it simple and keep iterating.
Awesome. Thank you guys for those key takeaways. Do you have any other last thoughts to share before we turn this over, or yeah, any last thoughts?
I think the only thing I would say is that one common thread that just goes through all of this is keeping an open mind and being open to feedback. So unfortunately, it can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable to get feedback, but it's something that's going to push you out of your comfort zone. So always make sure that you're being open and collaborative. I love collaborating with Andreas and getting his feedback because it just helps our website get better. I love collaborating with Julie because her feedback helps us get better. So I feel like having that collaborative and open relationship with your coworkers, with your attendees, with all of those folks that are giving you feedback, it's just going to benefit you in the long run. So I would say if there's even just one thing that you take away from this is just be open and be open to new ideas, and it will help your website in the long run.
Yeah, being open-minded is so important. And it's something that we all kind of like learn along the way, and like learning with other people. You need to make sure you have empathy and sympathy, understand where people are coming from. People don't just make these choices just to make them, right? Like there is a reasoning behind everything. And although you might know what's best or you have a better way of doing something, it's not about telling them like, oh, your version of this, it just doesn't work, right? Like let's move on to the next thing. Explain to them that you understand where they're coming from, you understand why you want to do something a certain way, but then also show them, hey, maybe there's this better way of doing something. So it's a lot of communication for sure, but also just being open to understand where other folks are coming from. Because in general, right, humans tend to disagree on a lot of things, but we all have the same goal. So make sure you keep your eye on the prize and keep an open communication, and you'll get to that better product.
And one more thing, sorry. Last thing I'll say, Andreas and I are always open to chat with other event marketers and web designers, and we would love to connect with you all. So please find us, connect with us on all the places. We're both on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear what your challenges are, how we can help, and give feedback. Anything that we can do to help, we would love to. We love chatting with you guys. So just want to give that last plug that we would love to be a resource for you.
Always.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody has enjoyed our conversation today. I think my final takeaway is for those of you out here who might be thinking, maybe you don't have the opportunity or ability to partner with somebody on your UX or web team. We really tried to make sure there were some good takeaways that you could adopt, even if you aren't a UX designer, a graphics designer, a web coder. There's so many great little nuggets and principles that you can apply from Andreas's UX principles. The simple writing, simplifying things, giving people information quickly, that we hope these principles are things you can adopt. And who knows, maybe this is the start of finding that great partnership with somebody in web UX who really wants to help you revolutionize your event website. So as you plan for 2025, we hope that we've inspired you with some new thoughts on your event website, some new good key takeaways to really help you drive your event registration, drive those registration conversions, and ultimately have that really successful event. It all starts with your online web presence to get people there and execute efficiently and amazingly on site, creating that great event experience. And if you do want to learn more about Cvent, as we talked about, our event website for Cvent Connect is built on the Cvent event management platform. We have a $100 gift card waiting for you. Just complete a demo with us and we'll make sure you receive that. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dara and Andres. Really enjoyed having you here for this great discussion. And we look forward to seeing all of the great event websites that you all create in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.